The day Karen crossed the wrong woman. I always said I'd never let anyone push me around again. Not after everything I built. The land, the businesses, the lake, the roads. All of it came from my work, my sweat, my stubbornness. So when the HOA president, Karen Templeton, strutted up my driveway that morning in her beige heels and fake smile, I knew something ugly was coming. She always walked like she owned the place. Too bad she didn't know I owned everything around it. It was 7:43 a.m. when I heard the first knock. Sharp, impatient. My dog Luna growled low, her fur bristling. I slipped on my pink blazer, a habit I'd formed years ago during board meetings and real estate takeovers, because I liked to look powerful when I destroyed people's nonsense. When I opened the door, Karen was standing there with a clipboard, sunglasses, and that thin-lipped smile she thought made her look important. Behind her were two of her little HOA disciples, tapping away on iPads, like they were documenting evidence for the FBI. "Good morning, Ms. Reynolds," Karen said in that brittle, sugary tone. "We've received multiple complaints that you're preparing to move your belongings off HOA property without authorization." I blinked. "Without authorization, Karen, it's my house." Her smile tightened. "It's an HOA-regulated property, dear. All moves must be logged with the community board. You can't just leave." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You're telling me I can't move out?" She adjusted her sunglasses, like she was about to say something profound. "Not without settling your fines. You've racked up over $14,000 for unapproved dock repairs, non-standard fencing, and, oh, the pink exterior paint you decided to put on your boathouse. That one made me grin wider. That pink cost more than your entire wardrobe, Karen." Her little assistants gasped like I'd sworn at the Pope. Karen sniffed. "We'll have to issue a stop order on your move. The HOA will be contacting county enforcement to handle this if you refuse." That's when I smiled. The kind of smile that made people nervous. Because there was one thing Karen had never bothered to find out. "I am county enforcement." She froze. "Excuse me?" I crossed my arms. "You might want to check whose signature is at the bottom of your HOA's land charter." I could see confusion flicker across her eyes. She didn't understand yet. Most people never did. When I'd bought the land 20 years ago, I'd done something most developers never thought to do. I'd purchased the entire district's mineral, water, and zoning rights, which meant legally, every HOA in this area operated under my county jurisdiction. But I didn't need to tell her that. Not yet. "I'm moving my house, Karen," I said calmly. "And if you set one more foot on this property, I'll have you charged with trespassing." Her jaw dropped. "You can't threaten me. I'm the HOA president." I turned to Luna. "You hear that, girl? She thinks she's in charge." Karen's face went crimson. She jabbed her clipboard toward me. "I'll call the police." "Do it," I said. "I'll wait right here." An hour later, the police arrived. 2 patrol cars, lights flashing like it was some criminal standoff. My movers had paused, watching from the trucks. I stood there in my pink suit, hands on hips, as Karen rushed up to the officers, gesturing wildly like a mother scolding toddlers. "She's illegally removing property. She's violating HOA covenants. She's being uncooperative." The officer, a young guy named Morales, I'd hired through county programs a year earlier, turned to me. "Ms. Reynolds, is this true?" I smirked. "No, officer. I'm the property owner. She's trespassing," Karen huffed. "Don't listen to her. She thinks she's above the rules." The HOA, I cut her off. "You want to talk about rules, Karen? Let's talk about Section 9, Clause 14 of your HOA charter. The one that says all HOA disputes defer to county zoning authority." She blinked. "What?" "Guess who owns the zoning authority?" Her face fell. You're bluffing." "Try me," I said, pulling out my phone. Would you like me to call the county clerk's office? They'll confirm who signed your HOA's founding papers. In 2003, Officer Morales coughed, trying not to laugh. Ma'am, he said to Karen, you might want to take a step back. Karen's lips quivered. This is harassment. She's using fake documents. I held up my phone. You sure about that? Because if you're accusing the County Records Department of forgery, that's a felony. Her assistants whispered something to each other, one of them checking her tablet nervously. That was the moment Karen realized she'd messed with the wrong woman. Miss Templeton, Officer Morales said politely, I think it'd be best if you let Ms. Reynolds continue her move. You don't have jurisdiction here. Her mouth fell open. She's lying. She can't own the... I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. I don't just own the land, Karen. I own the lake, the roads, and every inch of property your HOA sits on. I've been letting you collect your little dues and play president because it amused me. But you just ruined that. Her sunglasses slipped off her nose. Her face went pale. You'll regret this, she whispered. I leaned in with a smile. Oh, honey, you already do. She stormed off, heels stabbing into the dirt like angry punctuation marks. The officers left, shaking their heads. My movers started loading again. For a few minutes, everything was quiet. The satisfying kind of quiet that comes after you win a battle you didn't even have to fight. But I knew Karen wouldn't stop there. Women like her never did. They only doubled down and made it worse for themselves. By evening, I'd already gotten 3 emails from the HOA threatening to suspend my lake access, revoke my dock license, and fine me another $7,000 for verbal misconduct toward board officials. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my wine. I drafted a single reply. Effective immediately. Your HOA is operating on county property. County jurisdiction supersedes all HOA authorities. Cease all operations until reviewed by my office. Then I hit send. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Karen had rallied her little army. Half the neighborhood was outside my driveway, with no one is above the HOA signs, like it was a protest. She'd posted a message on the community Facebook page, claiming I'd forged ownership documents and illegally seized control of the neighborhood. I opened my door in my silk robe, hair up, coffee in hand, and stepped outside. Phones immediately pointed at me. I smiled and waved. Good morning. Did everyone forget it's Tuesday? Karen stepped forward. We voted unanimously to remove you from the community. I raised an eyebrow. You're removing me from my county. Her lips twitched. We're taking this to the state level. I laughed softly. Then I'll see you there. But just so you know, my attorney's husband is the deputy state secretary. He hates HOA bullies. Karen's face crumpled. For the first time, I saw the fear behind the arrogance, the realization that she was small. And I wasn't just another homeowner she could push around. That night, I drove to the county records office myself. I wasn't doing it because I needed proof. I already had it. I did it because I wanted to see her reaction when I made everything public. The clerk smiled as I walked in. Evening, Ms. Reynolds. Here for the deed confirmation. Yeah, I said. Print every document showing my ownership of the Lake District and the attached HOAs. I want it notarized and stamped. He chuckled. Karen again. Karen again. It took about 20 minutes to compile everything. Over 240 pages of ownership filings, contracts and charters. All legally binding. All signed by me. The next day, I delivered it straight to the HOA office myself. Hand-delivered, pink folder, gold seal on top. Karen opened the door and froze. Morning, I said sweetly. I brought you something. She stared at the folder like it was a bomb. What's this? Proof that you work for me. She didn't speak. She didn't even move. Behind her, her vice president, a nervous man named Gary, peeked out, eyes wide. Karen. She's right. Her name's on every document. Karen turned white. That can't. Oh, it is, I said. And you've been sending your HOA fees to a district fund that belongs to my real estate trust. Meaning, technically, I've been paying you to annoy me. I smiled wider. But not anymore. Then I walked away, heels clicking on the marble floor, feeling lighter with every step. That night, my phone lit up non-stop. Calls from other HOAs in the district. Suddenly realizing who I was. One by one, they started backing off, apologizing for past fines, sending reconciliation offers. It was funny how fast power changed behavior. But Karen didn't stop. She went to the news, and that's where she made her biggest mistake. When Karen declared war, if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that small people always think volume equals power. And Karen Templeton, she was about to scream herself into extinction. It started 2 days after I handed her those ownership documents. By then, every HOA in the region had gone quiet, except hers. Karen wasn't the type to accept reality. She was the type to burn it down if she couldn't control it. And she had just declared war on me. The first sign came that Thursday morning. I woke up to over 100 notifications. Emails, Facebook mentions, even a few concerned citizen voicemails from people I didn't know. Karen had gone live. She'd done a full 45-minute stream from her manicured backyard, framed by fake roses and HOA banners. She'd told her followers that a rogue land baroness had forged county documents and was threatening to dismantle the entire Lakeview community HOA. She even had props, waving a stack of papers like she'd uncovered some great conspiracy. Watched the whole thing while sipping my coffee, Luna at my feet. Halfway through, I started laughing so hard I nearly spilled it. At one point, Karen held up a photo of me at a ribbon-cutting ceremony and said, "This woman is dangerous. She's trying to turn our neighborhood into her private empire." Honey, I already own the empire. But Karen wasn't just talking. She was rallying. Within 24 hours, she'd gathered an online mob. Locals who didn't understand how property law worked. Retirees who loved drama. And a few wannabe community activists who thought HOA politics was the new civil rights movement. By Friday evening, the protest signs were back on my lawn. "Stop the tyrant! Save Lakeview! No one owns the county!" I leaned on my porch railing, watching them chant as the sunset burned gold behind them. Then I picked up my phone and called my attorney. "Janet," I said calmly, "start preparing the dissolution papers." There was silence for a moment. "You mean the HOA?" "Every HOA in the Lakeview district," I said. "We're done playing nice," Janet chuckled. "Oh, she's going to lose her mind." "She already has," I said. "Now I'm just making it official." That weekend, Karen doubled down. She went on local TV. Some small-town reporter had bitten the bait, doing a segment titled, "HOA versus Landowner. Who really runs Lakeview County?" They filmed her in front of the lake, my lake, with dramatic music, cutting to clips of her saying things like, "We're just ordinary people standing up to corruption." When the interviewer asked, "Do you have evidence she forged documents?" Karen smiled and said, "We're working on it." That working on it became her downfall. The next morning, my attorney delivered an official statement, complete with notarized deeds, signatures, and time-stamped filings. Then she dropped it right into the reporter's inbox. By the evening broadcast, the news station aired a correction live on TV. They confirmed that Ms. Evelyn Reynolds was, in fact, the sole legal owner of the land beneath Lakeview HOA, the adjoining lake, and 3 neighboring communities. They even zoomed in on my signature. The anchor finished by saying, "The Lakeview HOA appears to be operating under a misinterpretation of jurisdiction." Translation: Karen just got caught lying on live television. That night, I took my boat out across the lake. Calm, quiet, a glass of rosé in hand. The reflection of my pink suit shimmered on the water like fire. Luna lay beside me, her head on my lap. From across the shore, I could see the HOA clubhouse lights still on. I knew Karen was inside, scheming. She'd lost the legal battle, but she was about to make it personal. The next morning, I woke to the sound of construction, chainsaws, hammers, yelling. I looked outside, and my jaw tightened. Karen had ordered a team to start tearing down my dock. My dock. I stormed out in my pink blazer and heels, shouting over the buzz of saws. What the hell are you doing? One of the workers, looking guilty, said, "Ma'am, we were told this structure violated HOA waterfront code." I cut him off. By who? He pointed toward the clubhouse. Karen was standing there in her beige pantsuit, holding her clipboard like it was a sword. "You can't just ignore community rules," she shouted. "You're endangering the lake ecosystem." I laughed, loud and sharp. "You're standing on my soil, dismantling my property, with my contractors, paid for by my county taxes." She smirked. "Then sue me." Oh, that was exactly what I was going to do. By noon, I'd filed a criminal trespass and vandalism complaint against the HOA. By 3 p.m., I'd emailed a county-wide notice of jurisdictional violation, effectively freezing all HOA activities in Lakeview until further review. Karen's little empire was now legally paralyzed. No new fines, no board meetings, no dues collections. The power she worshipped evaporated in a single signature. That evening, my phone rang. It was her. "Evelyn," she said, voice trembling with barely contained rage. "You don't know who you're messing with." "Oh, I do," I replied. An unemployed volunteer president of a now illegal HOA, her breath hitched. "You can't destroy a whole community over a disagreement." "Karen, I didn't destroy your community," I said softly. "You did, the moment you decided you could control someone who owns the ground you walk on." Then I hung up. The following days were glorious chaos. Without the HOA, people started realizing how much they'd hated it. Homeowners began tearing down their ugly, HOA-approved fences, repainting their houses whatever color they wanted, parking their boats wherever they pleased. One man even put up a sign that said, "Free at last, no HOA." Karen, meanwhile, started losing allies fast. Her vice president, Gary, resigned claiming health issues. The treasurer vanished after realizing she'd been collecting dues for an entity that technically no longer existed. Karen tried to call an emergency board meeting, but the clubhouse locks had been changed by order of the county, by me. Then came the audit. My office conducted a full financial review of the HOA's operations over the last 5 years. What we found made even my attorney's jaw drop. Karen had been siphoning funds, using HOA money for landscaping her own property, buying personal, community enhancement furniture, and even paying her niece for social media management. When the report went public, she didn't show her face for days. The local news picked it up again, this time with the headline, "Lakeview HOA President Accused of Misuse of Funds." The same reporter who'd interviewed her last week now said, "It appears Ms. Templeton may face criminal charges." I poured myself another glass of wine. Justice, served chilled. A few nights later, I received a letter in the mail. Hand-delivered, no return address. Inside was a single sentence, written in frantic cursive. "You've ruined my life." No signature. But I didn't need one. I set the letter down and looked out at the lake, silent under the moonlight. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Karen had played a game she didn't understand. A power game where rules don't protect the weak. And arrogance always eats itself alive. But there was still one last step, one final act of closure. The county courthouse was packed that morning. Karen sat 2 rows ahead, pale, hair unbrushed, her once perfect nails chipped. Her lawyer, a nervous man sweating through his suit, whispered frantically, but she barely heard him. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Case 1072B, he said. Lakeview County versus Lakeview Homeowners Association. My attorney stood confidently. Your Honor, the HOA operated outside its legal jurisdiction and engaged in repeated acts of trespass and misappropriation of funds. Karen jumped to her feet. That's a lie, she forged. The judge slammed his gavel. Ms. Templeton, sit down. She sank back, trembling. Then the clerk read the ownership filings aloud. My filings. Stamped, notarized, and dated 22 years ago. The same ones Karen had called fake. The judge adjusted his glasses. Well, it appears Ms. Reynolds does, in fact, own the land beneath your HOA, which means technically she has every right to dissolve it. A hush swept through the courtroom. Then he added, effective immediately, Lakeview HOA is dissolved pending full investigation. Karen gasped. You can't. That's my life. No, Ms. Templeton, the judge said. It was your hobby. Now it's over. Outside reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Karen shoved through the crowd, shouting about conspiracies, her voice cracking. Meanwhile, I stepped out calmly, pink suit shining in the sunlight. One reporter asked, Ms. Reynolds, any comment? I smiled for the camera. Never pick a fight with the woman who signs your paycheck. Over the next few weeks, Lakeview transformed. The lakefront became open to everyone. Property values actually went up. The county invested in new parks, trails, and a farmer's market. For the first time in years, people were smiling again. Karen, on the other hand, moved out quietly one night. Word was she sold her house for half its value and left the state. No one missed her. No one even noticed she was gone. One evening, as I watched the sunset paint the water pink and gold, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an old neighbor, one of the few who'd supported me from the start. Thank you for standing up to her. We never could, I smiled. You never had to. That's what owning the county is for. Luna barked softly beside me. I looked down at her and whispered, let's take a walk, girl. We've got peace to protect now. The wind carried the scent of pine and lake water. No HOA fines, no clipboards, no screaming presidents, just quiet and freedom. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd finally moved out of more than just a house. The county strikes back. When the HOA fell, peace didn't come quietly. It came roaring. For weeks, my inbox overflowed with messages from homeowners across the state, some congratulating me, others begging for help to free their neighborhoods from similar tyrants. Apparently, my little county incident had made headlines far beyond Lakeview. People called me the HOA Slayer. Others said I was the woman who owned the law. But truthfully, I just wanted silence. No meetings, no fines, no fake rules. Just the sound of the lake at dawn and Luna's paws on the dock. Still, when you own the county, silence doesn't last long. The calm before the counterattack. 3 weeks after the court verdict, my assistant called me into the office with a face full of nerves. Ms. Reynolds, you might want to see this, she said, sliding a printed article across my desk. It was a blog post from a regional HOA advocacy group. Headline: The woman who destroyed Lakeview HOA is under investigation. I frowned. Investigation? By who? She hesitated. Karen filed an appeal with the state board. I blinked. Then I laughed. She's appealing the court's decision. Not exactly, my assistant said quietly. She's suing the county. I stood, my hands gripping the edge of my mahogany desk. She's suing me. Yes, she said, for malicious interference and emotional distress. She claims you abused your authority to personally target her. For a moment, I was speechless. The nerve of this woman. Bankrupt, disgraced, jobless, and yet still swinging her clipboard like a sword. Then, slowly, I smiled. "All right," I said. "If she wants another war, she'll get one. But this time, we're ending it for good." The gathering storm. I called Janet, my attorney. "Karen filed suit," I said simply. "I want to countersue." Janet chuckled. "For what?" "Defamation, harassment, vandalism, obstruction of county operations. Pick your favorite." By the time we were done filing our side, Karen's case looked like a mosquito buzzing at a bulldozer. Still, it wasn't about the lawsuit. It was about message. People like Karen didn't understand consequences until they became living proof of them. Meanwhile, I started rebuilding Lakeview, not as an HOA, but as a free zone. We called it the Lakeview District Restoration Project. Every week I met with real homeowners, the ones who'd suffered under Karen's ridiculous rules. A retired veteran who'd been fined for an unauthorized flagpole. A young mother who'd been cited for letting her daughter draw chalk art on the sidewalk. A man who'd been told his Christmas lights were too colorful. Now they stood with me, free, laughing as we drafted our own community charter. Voluntary, transparent, and fair, the pink-suited tyrant had become a hero, and that only made Karen's bitterness grow darker. The hidden motive too. Months into Karen's lawsuit, we uncovered something that turned the entire case upside down. Janet came into my office, holding a thin manila folder. "You might want to sit down," she said. I took it, opened it, and froze. Inside were property transfer documents, emails, and a notarized letter. They showed that Karen had been secretly negotiating to sell the lakefront land, my land, to a private developer from Florida. The deal had been in motion for months. Right before she confronted me about moving out, she hadn't been enforcing rules. She'd been protecting a secret sale. "Are you telling me?" I said slowly. "She tried to sell land she didn't even own." Janet nodded grimly, and she used HOA funds to grease the deal. It all made sense now. Her desperation, her fury, the lies about saving the community. She wasn't protecting the lake. She was trying to cash it in before anyone noticed who the real owner was. But I'd noticed. And now I had the proof. The county hearing. The next hearing wasn't in some small courthouse this time. It was in the state capitol, packed with cameras, attorneys, and government officials. Karen looked smaller now, thinner, older, her hair dull and hands shaking. But her eyes still burned with defiance. When my name was called, I stood in my bright pink suit, calm, collected, the storm behind my smile. The state chairwoman asked, "Ms. Reynolds, do you wish to respond to Ms. Templeton's accusations?" "Yes," I said smoothly. "By submitting evidence of her attempted land fraud." A ripple of shock moved through the room. Karen's lawyer sputtered. "Objection! Overruled," the chairwoman said. "Proceed." I handed the file to the clerk. Inside was everything. The contracts, the emails, the bank transfers from HOA accounts. When the documents hit the projector screen, the room went silent. Karen's face drained of color. "Ms. Templeton," the chairwoman said sharply, "did you or did you not authorize these transactions?" Karen's lips trembled. "It was a community investment. It was theft," I said coldly. "And a federal crime, since the transaction involved interstate commerce." Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. Karen looked at me, eyes wide, tears forming. And for a brief second, I saw something that wasn't arrogance. It was fear. Real, suffocating fear. The folder board found her guilty of fraud and financial misconduct within the week. The court froze her assets. Her home, once a monument to her control, was seized to repay misused HOA funds. She tried to apologize on social media, claiming she was misled by bad advice. But the world had already moved on. The HOA queen was dethroned. Her followers vanished overnight. As for her lawsuit against me, dismissed, with prejudice, meaning she could never file again. I could have stopped there, but part of me wasn't satisfied, because while the legal war was over, the scars she left on people's lives still lingered. So, I decided to do something bold, something permanent. The new Lakeview. 6 months later, Lakeview wasn't just a county. It was a movement. Where the old HOA clubhouse once stood, we built the Lakeview Freedom Center, a glass-walled building surrounded by trees and water, open to the public for art, meetings, and local gatherings. The walls were covered in murals, one of them showing a woman in a bright pink suit, standing at the edge of the lake, breaking a golden chain, labeled HOA Rules. I didn't approve that design, but I didn't stop it either. People needed their symbol. At the ribbon cutting, I gave a short speech, nothing rehearsed, just honest words from a tired but proud heart. I didn't fight the HOA because I wanted power, I said. I fought because no one deserves to be ruled by people who forget they're human. This county belongs to everyone who lives in it, not to clipboards, not to fines, and not to fear. The crowd cheered, some cried, and for once, the lake felt truly free. The letter. A few weeks later, I received another letter. This one was typed, formal, from a state correctional facility. It was from Karen. I sat at my desk, staring at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Evelyn, I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted control because I never had any. My whole life, people ignored me, until I built something where they had to listen. I lost myself in it. I hope you do something better with what you built. Karen. I folded the letter gently and placed it in my drawer. No tears, no anger, just quiet understanding. Karen wasn't evil, she was small, and the world had made her believe power was the only way to matter. But I knew better now. Real power wasn't control. It was peace. The ending she deserved. A year later, I visited the lake at sunrise. The air was soft, golden. The water reflected streaks of pink and orange, matching the color of my suit. Luna ran ahead, barking happily at ducks. On the opposite shore, where Karen's house once stood, wildflowers had taken over. The land had healed itself. Just like the people who lived around it, a young couple walked by, hand in hand, laughing as their little boy splashed in the shallows. Beautiful morning, the woman said. It is, I replied. Enjoy it. This place is yours now. They smiled, not realizing who I was. And I liked it that way. As I stood there, I thought about everything that had happened. The fights, the shouting, the cops, the courtroom, the chaos. It had been ugly, but it had been worth it, because freedom isn't given. It's taken back, piece by piece, from people who think they own you. And if anyone ever forgot that, well, they could look at Lakeview County. They could look at me, the woman who wore pink like armor. The woman no HOA could silence. The woman who turned a fight over fees and fences into a revolution. I took one last look at the water and whispered, "Goodbye, Karen, and thank you for reminding me who I am." Then I turned and walked away. Heels clicking, heart came, empire quiet, leaving behind a lake that finally belonged to its people. Not a single fine, not a single rule, just the endless sound of peace.